Today we're back with another manga review from the manga theater, which we're going to talk about today's highlights. I'm not making this up, that is what the title is, unfortunately. But anyways, it does have a really cool note from Akira Toriyama, which I think a lot of people are going to want to hear. So let's get into the review first, and then we'll get to the Akira Toriyama stuff in a bit. So anyways, it starts out where a pig is climbing out of the clock, ready to wake up the child named Kanta, since he has to go to school, but unfortunately he's a little late for class. But anyways, the pig tries to wake him up with the alarm, and doesn't manage to wake him up, unfortunately. So he thought he tried the hammer, and, well, that didn't go as planned, let me tell you. So as he tries to put his eyeballs back together, which kind of puts it back together, Kanta takes off to class because he knows it is lunchtime. And let me tell you, this is his favorite time of day because everybody gets to have an interesting meal from very specific people, which apparently this time it wasn't that great. But even though the kids were complaining about their food, the teacher definitely got a buffet because the mouse pointed out that she's having some good food all of a sudden. But even though most of the kids in class weren't enjoying it, there was one person that really enjoyed it and he wanted seconds. Which then we end up back going straight to the main character once again, named Kanta. And I feel like this is where the story actually continues more for this character. I feel like this was kind of like an opening monologue, if you want to go with that. You're not learning much from the students, you're kind of learning more about what's just happening while he's running to school, I feel like. That's kind of how I feel about the manga so far. But anyways, Kanta pops out of the pot and he's got a toothache. So the teacher pretty much says, hey, why don't you go get that checked at the doctor's, which I don't want to go to it at all. So he ends up going to the clinic either way by this caveman guy. I don't know, I call him a caveman, but he has no name. I just think he's a really interesting caveman dude. But anyways, brings him over to the clinic. This lamb is kind of there to ready to inspect him. I love how like the kid just points out saying that he needs to wash his hands because he was playing in the dirt. So that's awesome. But anyways, as he proceeds, he finds that he's got a lot of random bugs in his mouth. And he literally just kind of makes a joke saying like, why don't we just keep your mouth going? You can collect all these bugs and then we don't have to worry about, you know, dealing with them. So since the kid wants all those bugs out of his mouth, he uses insecticide, which the kid really complains, and the guy makes a joke saying like, it only kills bugs, which unfortunately he didn't like the joke. So anyways, the second one, he blows him up kinda with the dynamite in his mouth to see if that will help. Unfortunately, he didn't like that joke either. Now the third attempt, I don't know if this was a joke or not, but he tried doing the whole maneuver of, how about we tie your tooth to the car? Which I feel like if the guy didn't like encourage him to like keep running, I feel like the tooth would have came out, but unfortunately he encouraged him so much to the point that he ran past the car. So sure enough, he got angry and, well, you know what happens. But even though all these attempts did not work for the kid, he ends up going back to school with a toothache, really starving right now, he wants to eat. And sure enough, one of the kid points out that there is leftovers, and once he mentions that to the other kid, a chicken comes out with onigiri, which literally everybody wanted at that point, and you could tell this kid really wanted the food badly. So once he figures out that he could just swallow it instead of trying chewing it, he manages to find out that there's nothing left. But he did notice that there were some rice crumbs around this girl's face who was serving the onigiri, and if we know the whole usual, you know, character scared of what's gonna happen, she pretty much knocks the kid out. And sure enough, the tooth comes out. Now, even though the tooth is out and he's ready to go get more food, you think the story would just end there and stuff. No, it doesn't end there yet. Pretty much he runs to the pumpkin patch and sure enough, he ends up back at the doctor's office. So even though the whole story was just literally about a kid having a toothache and just dealing with his doctor, I think literally one of the main characters of that story is literally the doctor, because by the end of it you even see him literally saying like, who even cares about me being a doctor at this point? Like, I feel bad for the doctor, of course, because like this kid was like brutally demolishing him every attempt. So I get why like he was like all bruised up and kind of just like, I don't know if I want to be a doctor anymore. But I will say though, the story was very intriguing, and it was just, I love the little like goofiness of the story, even though there wasn't like a huge plot like the last one. I will say though, it was definitely an intriguing story to read. I'm gonna have to give this story, I'm gonna say a 7.5 out of 10. It was definitely decent. Definitely kept the train rolling. I will say though, the whole school figuring out what's going on, I understand like they had to put that in, of course, because by the end of it you learn that there's an event that goes on during that time. But even though that happened, I just feel like it was kind of just like a small little filler, which there's nothing wrong with, I do want to point out, but it kind of did drag the story on to the point where we didn't get to see the main character much at the start, besides him just running to school. And then we had to learn about all these other characters that had kind of had a little bit to the story, but either way, still was a good story, and I do have to say, though, I do love the whole adventure of the doctor trying to get this tooth out, so that was great. I loved it for that part. But anyways, even though that is the story, I do want to talk about the small little snippet that Akira Toriyama left for this manga. Now, this is something I think a lot of people are going to like in general, because it's about how he actually started literally getting into illustrations, which was he loved drawing animals and that years ago, but what made him really fall in love was 101 Dalmatian animation, which I think is so fascinating to me personally, because that is actually one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. Plus, I also won in a contest, which I thought that was really awesome at the same time. So to have something that was like a big event to me at the time, because it was kind of a big deal when I was a kid, but to also see how this also inspired Akira Toriyama, I just think that is very fascinating personally to me. So, but anyways, guys, hope you guys are watching. Hit a like for more, subscribe new, of course. And if you enjoyed the review, of course, don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and you'll be seeing some more reviews from the Manga Theater. That is right. Anyways, guys, take care. Have a good day.